Welcome to Daily Prayer, where we come together to nurture our souls with heartfelt prayers every day. This is your space to find peace, draw closer to God, and embrace the blessings of faith. Whether you're seeking hope, strength, or a moment of spiritual connection, we're so glad you're here. Today, we're embarking on a powerful journey through the story of Good Friday, a story that reveals God's boundless love and changes lives. If this touches your heart, please support our channel by liking this video, sharing it with someone who needs hope, and subscribing to join our daily prayer family. Your support helps us spread this message of faith to more people. Now, let's begin. Imagine standing on a rocky hill just outside Jerusalem. The sky is unnaturally dark, the ground trembles beneath your feet, and in the center of it all, a man hangs on a crude wooden cross, his body broken, his breath fading. To the crowd around you, this looks like the end, a failed prophet, a crushed dream. But what if I told you this moment, this day we call Good Friday, is not a defeat, but the greatest victory the world has ever known? Welcome to a journey that will peel back the layers of Good Friday, revealing truths so powerful they can change how you see God, yourself, and the world. Whether you've marked this day for years or are hearing its story for the first time, stay with me. This isn't just history, it's a message that speaks to you right now, and I promise you won't want to miss a single word. Good Friday is the heartbeat of the Christian faith, a day where sorrow and joy, death and life collide in a way that defies explanation. It's the day Jesus Christ, hailed as a king just days before, faced a brutal crucifixion. Why call it good when it's steeped in pain? The answer lies in 5 hidden truths that transform this day from a tragedy into a divine triumph. We'll explore these truths, drawing on the events of Good Friday as told in the Gospels, while weaving in personal reflections and stories from real people whose lives echo its lessons. This is more than a retelling. It's an invitation to experience Good Friday's power in your own heart. Let's begin at the cross, where what looked like defeat was the start of salvation. The first truth, a victory disguised as defeat. Let's set the scene. It's Friday in Jerusalem, and the hill called Golgotha, or the place of the skull, is crowded with soldiers, onlookers, and mourners. 3 crosses loom against the sky, and on the central one hangs Jesus, blood streaming from nail wounds, a crown of thorns digging into his brow. The crowd sees failure. Soldiers mock him, shouting, "If you're the king, save yourself." People who once cheered him now shake their heads, whispering disappointment. Even the earth seems to groan in sorrow, as Matthew 27:45-50 describes. But Jesus isn't defeated. He's choosing this, as John 10:11 says, like a shepherd laying down his life for his sheep. His final words, "It is finished," in John 19:30, aren't a whimper of despair, but a shout of triumph. They declare that sin's chains, binding humanity since Eden, are snapped. The wall separating us from God is shattered. Death's curse is undone. The cross, a Roman tool of shame, becomes a gateway to salvation, with Jesus' blood as an offering greater than any temple sacrifice. Now step back and feel the weight of this. To the Romans, this is just another execution. To the crowd, it's a fallen hero. But to heaven, it's a revolution. Jesus' words, "It is finished," echo like thunder. They don't mean his life is over, they mean his mission is complete. Sin, which had enslaved us, every lie, every betrayal, every moment of selfishness, is defeated. The debt we could never pay is canceled. The cross, meant to humiliate, becomes a throne where love reigns. This truth flips everything we know about winning and losing. In our world, victory is power, money, fame, control. But Jesus shows a different kind. Victory through surrender, strength through sacrifice. I've chased the world's version of victory. A few years ago, I poured everything into a job, thinking a promotion would define me. I worked late nights, neglected family, and pinned my worth on a title. When I didn't get it, I felt like the crowd at the cross, disappointed, lost. Good Friday taught me that true victory isn't what you gain, but what you give. Jesus gave everything, not for glory, but for us. That's the kind of win that lasts. Let me tell you about Emma, someone I met at a recovery group. She'd hit rock bottom after years of addiction, losing her job, her family, her hope. To the world, she was a failure, crucified by her choices. But a pastor shared the Good Friday story, explaining how Jesus' apparent defeat was a victory for all. Emma saw herself in that narrative, not as a lost cause, but as someone Jesus died for. She entered rehab, rebuilt her relationships, and now helps others in recovery. Her life mirrors the cross. What looked like the end was the start of redemption. This first truth challenges us to rethink failure. What in your life feels like a dead end, a broken dream, a strained relationship, a personal struggle? Good Friday says God can turn defeats into victories if you trust Him. The cross is where love won, and that victory is yours to claim. Hold this as we move to the next truth, where darkness carries a promise. The second truth, darkness with a promise. As Jesus hung on the cross, something strange happened. From noon to 3 p.m., as Matthew 27 verse 45 records, a thick darkness fell over Jerusalem. This wasn't a storm or an eclipse, it was supernatural, as if the sun refused to shine while the Son of God suffered. The darkness reflected creation's grief, the weight of sin Jesus bore. It was a cosmic sign that something beyond human understanding was unfolding. Yet, this gloom wasn't just sorrow, it whispered of a dawn to come, a light that would break through. Picture yourself there, the sky black at midday. The crowd falls silent, confused, maybe afraid. This darkness isn't just atmospheric, it's spiritual. In the Bible, darkness often symbolizes sin or separation from God. Think of the plague in Egypt or the chaos before creation. Here, it's as if Jesus is absorbing the world's darkness, every lie, every hurt, every rebellion, into Himself. He's not just dying, He's fighting a battle we can't see, carrying our burdens so we don't have to. The darkness is creation, mourning its creator, but it's also a promise. No night lasts forever. This truth hits close to home because I've known darkness, not the kind that hides the sun, but the kind that clouds the heart. A few years ago, I went through a season of doubt, questioning my faith, my purpose, everything. It felt like noon, but looked like midnight. Good Friday's darkness reminds me that God meets us in those moments, not with judgment, but with presence. Jesus entered the dark so we could find light. It's a promise that even our deepest struggles have an end. Let me share Jamal's story. I met him at a community outreach program. He grew up in a neighborhood scarred by violence, losing friends to gangs and his brother to a shooting. Life felt like constant darkness, no hope in sight. A mentor introduced him to Good Friday, explaining how Jesus faced the world's darkness and won. Jamal started attending a youth group, found a job, and now mentors kids to show them there's light beyond their struggles. His life reflects Good Friday's promise. Even the deepest gloom can't stop God's dawn. The second truth teaches us that darkness, whether global or personal, isn't the end. Jesus faced it, absorbed it, and promised a new day. When life feels dark, grief, anxiety, uncertainty, remember Good Friday. God is there, working in the shadows, ready to bring light. Let's carry this hope as we explore the next truth, where a torn veil changes everything. The third truth, a torn veil, an open door. At the moment Jesus died, something astonishing happened in Jerusalem's temple, as Matthew 27:51 tells us. The veil, a massive curtain separating the Holy of Holies from the rest of the sanctuary, tore from top to bottom. This wasn't a small cloth, it was thick, heavy, a symbol of the barrier between God and humanity. Only the high priest could pass it once a year to atone for sins. But when Jesus died, that veil ripped, not by human hands, but by divine power. It declared that His sacrifice removed the separation caused by sin, opening access to God's presence for all. The torn veil was a silent proclamation of a new covenant where everyone could approach God through Christ. Imagine the priest's shock, hearing the tear echo through the temple's stone halls. That veil stood for distance. Sin kept us from God's holiness. But Jesus' death changed that. The tear, from top to bottom, shows God reaching down, not us reaching up. It's a game changer. God's presence isn't locked away anymore. Jesus' sacrifice makes him near, inviting us into a relationship, not a rule book. This truth is personal for me. I grew up seeing God as distant, a judge I had to please with perfect behavior. The idea that I could approach him freely felt impossible. The torn veil says otherwise. It tells me God wants me, wants you close, flaws and all. I've seen this in churches that welcome the broken, not just the polished. It reminds me of the prodigal son, where the father runs to his wayward child, just as God runs to us through the torn veil. Let me tell you about Sarah, someone I met at a shelter. She'd been homeless, estranged from her family, feeling unworthy of love. A church outreach team invited her to a service where she heard about the torn veil, how Jesus made God accessible to everyone, no matter their past. Hesitant, she went, expecting judgment. Instead, she found a community that embraced her. Sarah rebuilt her life, got a job, and now volunteers to help others feel God's nearness. Her story shows the torn veil's power. It opens the door to grace for all. The third truth is an invitation. The torn veil means you don't need to earn God's love. It's already yours through Jesus. What barriers keep you from God? Shame, fear, doubt? Good Friday says those are torn away. Step through and find a God who's waiting with open arms. Let's move to the next truth, where the earth itself speaks. The fourth truth, an earthquake that shakes the world. As Jesus breathed his last, Matthew 27:51-52 records a powerful event. An earthquake shook Jerusalem, splitting rocks and trembling the ground. This wasn't a random tremor, but a divine sign, announcing that Jesus' death was breaking the power of sin and death. The earth, burdened by humanity's rebellion, responded to its creator's sacrifice, proclaiming a new era where salvation would reign. Even Roman soldiers, hardened by war, were moved, declaring, "Truly this was the Son of God," as Matthew 27:54 notes. Feel the ground shake, stones crack, dust rises, the air hums with power. This earthquake isn't just geology, it's theology. The earth, which witnessed God's creation and humanity's fall, now feels the impact of Jesus' sacrifice. It's as if the planet can't stay silent, shouting through tremors that death is losing its grip. The soldiers' words show even outsiders sensed the moment's weight. Good Friday's earthquake is God's megaphone, declaring that the old order of sin is crumbling. I've felt earthquakes in my life, moments that shook my foundations, forcing me to see truth. Losing a close friend to illness was one. It broke me, but it woke me up to what matters: love, faith, legacy. Good Friday's quake reminds us that God uses upheaval to build something new. Our world sees this too: natural disasters, social shifts. But God's at work, shaking what's temporary to reveal what's eternal. Let me share Carlos's story. I met him through a prison ministry. Incarcerated for robbery, he felt his life was over, his world shattered. A chaplain shared Good Friday, describing the earthquake as God's way of breaking chains. Carlos realized his quake, his arrest, was a chance to change. He studied, mentored younger inmates, and after release, started a program to help ex-offenders. His story shows that God's earthquakes, though painful, can lead to new beginnings. The fourth truth is that God shakes what needs shaking. When your world trembles, loss, crisis, change, Good Friday says it's not the end. God's moving, breaking what binds you to build something better. Trust Him in the tremors as we explore the final truth, where tombs open to hope. The fifth truth: open tombs, open futures. Matthew 27:52-53 notes that the earthquake opened tombs, a stunning sign of victory over death. These graves, sealed for years, stood open, whispering of the resurrection to come. They weren't random, they were a prophecy, declaring that Jesus' death would defeat death itself. The open tombs pointed to Easter, when Jesus would rise, promising eternal life to all who believe. Picture the eerie sight: tombs cracked open, stones rolled away, the silence of death disturbed. These weren't just graves, they were symbols of humanity's fate, locked in mortality. But Good Friday changes that. The open tombs say death isn't final. Jesus' sacrifice cracks the power of the grave, not just for himself, but for us. It's a promise that resonates in a world obsessed with cheating death through science or legacy. Good Friday offers something better: life eternal through Christ. This truth gives hope, like I've seen in Anna, a hospice nurse I know. She cares for dying patients, holding their hands, praying with them. She says Good Friday gives her peace, knowing death isn't the end for those who trust in Jesus. Her work reflects the open tombs, a reminder that faith opens the door to eternity. Let me tell you about Anna and her patient Robert. He was elderly, terrified of dying, haunted by regrets. Anna shared the Good Friday story, explaining how the open tombs meant Jesus had conquered death. Robert found peace, passing with a smile, trusting in that promise. Anna's care shows how Good Friday's hope transforms even the darkest moments. The fifth truth is your future. The open tombs mean death doesn't win. Whatever you face, illness, loss, fear, Good Friday promises life beyond the grave. Live with that hope, knowing Jesus opened the way. Living Good Friday's truths, we've journeyed through Good Friday, from the cross's hidden victory to the open tomb's promise. Its 5 truths reshape how we live. First, victory and defeat. Trust God to turn losses into wins, like Emma's redemption. Second, darkness with a promise. Find hope in dark times, as Jamal did. Third, a torn veil, an open door. Approach God freely, like Sarah found welcome. Fourth, an earthquake that shakes. Embrace God's shaking, as Carlos did for a new start. Fifth, open tombs, open futures. Live with eternity's hope, like Anna's patience. Good Friday isn't just a day, it's a call. Where's your cross today? A struggle, a doubt, a dream that died? God's there, turning it into something beautiful. Act on it. Forgive someone, serve a neighbor, pray with boldness. Share this story with someone who needs hope. Good Friday isn't the end, it's the beginning of a life transformed by love.